Hey there, and welcome. We all like to think of ourselves as pretty rational people. We make choices based on facts, on cold, hard numbers. But what if I told you that when it comes to judging, well, pretty much everything about ourselves, our success, our safety, even our health, our brains are secretly running a completely different program, one that cares way less about our actual score and way more about our rank. Let's dig into how this hidden bias completely shapes our reality.
Okay, let me ask you something. Just a quick gut check. Which of these two scenarios would you pick? In the first one, your risk of a car accident is 30%, but the average person's risk is only 10%. Ouch. Or scenario 2, your risk is a scary-sounding 60%, but hey, the average is 80%, so you're actually doing better than most. Now, logically, 30% risk is way better than 60%, right? But which one feels better? That little twitch you just felt? That's exactly what we're talking about today.
So yeah, let's start right there with that really counterintuitive question. Because the way we instinctively answer it shines a huge spotlight on this powerful and usually invisible force that's always shaping how we feel about ourselves and the world around us.
I mean, the common sense idea is that if there's an objective yardstick available, we'll use it. If you know your salary in dollars, or your exact test score, or your medical risk as a percentage, well, that should be the end of the story, shouldn't it? That number alone should tell you how to feel and what to do next.
But what if that's just not how it works? What if your brain, without even asking you, is constantly peeking over your shoulder to see how everyone else is doing? And what if, and this is the crazy part, what if that sideways glance is actually more powerful than the hard fact staring you right in the face?
And that brings us to the culprit. Let's call it our internal comparison engine. It's this hidden force that's always running in the background, constantly checking and rechecking where we stand compared to everyone else.
Now, in psychology, this is known as social comparison. And it's just this fundamental human thing we do. To figure ourselves out, we don't look in a mirror, we look at other people. Am I smart? Well, I don't know. Am I smarter than him? Am I successful? Well, what kind of car is my neighbor driving? It's this process that's going on all the time, usually without us even noticing.
So this sets up a really fascinating battle in our minds. On one hand, we have the common belief. We use objective facts when we have them. But on the other hand, we have this surprising reality, which a really cool 1997 study by William Klein uncovered. We often care way more about our standing, our rank, than we do about the actual objective facts.
And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. Researchers put this to the test, and the results, especially when it comes to how we feel, well, they're pretty mind-blowing.
So check this out. In one experiment, people were told to imagine they had a certain genetic risk for a disease, and the results were just wild. When their risk was 30%, but they were told that was worse than average, they felt super disturbed, rating it a 7.11 out of 10. But get this, when their risk was a whopping 60%, I mean literally double the risk, but they were told it was better than average, their disturbance level dropped all the way down to a 5.28. Think about that. They literally felt better about having twice the risk, all because their rank was better.
And this just nails the whole point. The researcher himself, William Klein, put it perfectly. He said that people's relative standing, their rank, was considerably more influential than their absolute objective reality. It's like our feelings get completely hijacked by the comparison.
Okay, so it messes with our feelings. Big deal, right? But does it actually change our behavior? Does this little comparison engine actually make us do things differently? Well, the research says, oh yeah, for sure.
So in this other study, people took a test on judging art. They got a score, say 40% or 60% correct. And then came the twist. They were told if their score was above average or below average. Finally, they got a choice. You can try to win a prize by retaking the test, or you can just play a game of chance with the same 50-50 odds. Now, logically, your choice should be based on your score, right? If you got a 60%, you'd think, yeah, I'm pretty good at this, I'll retake it. If you got a 40%, you'd probably take the game of chance.
But that is not what happened. Not even close. The actual score? It barely mattered. What really drove their choice was the comparison. For the people who were told they were below average, only half of them chose to try the test again. But for the group told they were above average, a massive 73% of them went for it. Their rank, not their actual skill, was what made them decide to take on the challenge.
So what's going on here? Well, it all comes down to self-assessment. The moment you hear you're above average, it's like a shot of confidence straight to the brain. It completely changes how you see your own abilities. And that new boosted sense of confidence, that's what drives your decision. You feel like you're good at it, so you act like you are.
All right, so now that we've seen the science behind it, the really important part is learning to spot this powerful comparison engine working away in our own lives. Because trust me, it's there.
I mean, this bias explains so many things we all experience. It's why getting a 5% raise can actually feel awful if you find out the person next to you got 7%. It's why getting a C in that one killer class where the average was an F feels like winning the lottery. It is the entire engine behind keeping up with the Joneses. And it's why it so often feels better to be a big fish in a small pond. Our happiness isn't tied to the number, it's tied to our rank.
So, if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. Your brain often cares less about your actual performance and way more about your position. Your objective score is just data, but your rank in the tribe, that's what your brain is wired to care about most.
Look, knowing this doesn't mean you can just flip a switch and turn the comparison engine off. It's part of being human, but it does give you the power to recognize what's happening and to question it. So the real question I want to leave you with is this. Now that you know your brain has this secret obsession with your rank, what are you going to choose to measure your life by?